For most of human history, money was something you could touch. Gold coins, silver bars, copper pieces passing from one hand to another. Something physical, something real. But today, most money in the world does not exist like that at all. It lives inside databases, numbers on screens, digital entries created by banks and moved across the world in milliseconds, and yet billions of people trust it completely. Which raises a strange question. What exactly is money? Is it gold, paper, digital numbers, or something else entirely? Welcome to The Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Money feels like the most ordinary thing in the world. You earn it, you spend it, you save it. But the truth is that money is one of the strangest inventions humanity has ever created. Because money has almost no value on its own. You cannot eat it. You cannot build shelter with it. And yet entire civilizations have risen and fallen over it. To understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. Long before coins, banks, or financial markets existed. Back to the first human economies. In the earliest societies, there was no money at all. People survived through direct exchange. Farmers traded grain for tools. Hunters traded meat for clothing. Craftsmen traded pottery for food. This system is often called barter, and at first glance it seems simple. But barter has a serious problem. It only works if both people want exactly what the other has. Imagine you raise goats and want bread. You must find a baker who both wants goats and has bread available at that moment. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants, and it makes large economies almost impossible. As societies grew larger, barter became too inefficient. Something else was needed. The earliest solution appeared thousands of years ago in Mesopotamia. But it was not coins, it was accounting. Inside temples and palaces, scribes began recording debts on clay tablets. Farmers delivered grain, workers received rations, merchants owed silver. But the silver itself often never moved. The system worked through records, not physical exchange. In a strange way, the earliest money was not metal. It was information, a record of who owed what to whom, and that idea would shape the entire future of finance. Eventually, societies discovered something more practical. Certain commodities could act as universal intermediaries, items that everyone valued and that could be easily traded. Different cultures chose different things. Salt, cattle, shells, tea bricks, even giant stone discs on Pacific islands. But over time, two metals proved almost perfect, gold and silver. They were rare, but not too rare. Durable, but easy to divide. And recognizable across cultures. For centuries, gold and silver became the backbone of global trade. Empires minted coins, merchants carried them across continents. Money had finally taken physical form. And for a long time, that system seemed stable. Because the value of money was tied to something real. Something scarce, something that could not easily be created out of thin air. But then came one of the most important financial inventions in history. Paper money. Paper money began as a convenience. Merchants in China during the Tang and Song dynasties were tired of transporting heavy metal coins, so they began using paper receipts representing deposits of metal. Eventually, the government began issuing official paper notes. Europe adopted the idea centuries later. At first, paper money was simply a promise. A banknote meant that you could exchange it for gold or silver. The paper itself had no value. It represented the metal stored somewhere else. This system worked surprisingly well. Until governments discovered something tempting. They could print more paper than they had gold, and when they did, the nature of money began to change. For centuries, many countries tried to maintain what was called the gold standard. Money could be exchanged for a fixed amount of gold. In theory, this limited how much governments could create. But wars made discipline difficult. During major conflicts, governments often printed more money to pay for armies and supplies. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it ended in disaster. History is full of examples. France in the 1700s, Germany in the 1920s. Currencies collapsing as too much money chased too few goods. Eventually, the gold standard itself began to disappear. The final break came in 1971. When the United States officially ended the dollar's convertibility into gold. For the first time in modern history, the world's major currencies were no longer tied to precious metals. Money had become something entirely different. Fiat currency, money created by governments and central banks. Money that has value simply because people believe it does. This might sound fragile. But belief has always been the real foundation of money. Even gold only works as money because people agree that it does. The difference today is that modern money is almost entirely abstract. Most of the world's money exists only digitally. When you receive a salary, no physical cash moves. Your bank simply updates a number in a database. When you buy something online, another database changes. The entire global economy now runs on these invisible transfers. Money has become information. Banks play a critical role in this system, because modern banks do not simply store money, they create it. When a bank issues a loan, it does not take existing money from someone else. It creates new money in the borrower's account. This is how most money in modern economies enters circulation, through lending, which means that much of the world's money exists because someone somewhere is in debt. This idea can feel unsettling, but it also explains why credit and growth are so closely connected. Borrowing allows investment. Investment drives expansion. Expansion creates wealth, at least in theory. But the system also carries risks, because if too much money is created too quickly, prices can rise. Inflation. If lending becomes reckless, financial bubbles can form. And if confidence collapses, entire financial systems can shake. That is why central banks exist. They attempt to control the supply of money, raising interest rates when the economy overheats, lowering them during recessions. It is a delicate balancing act, and history shows that it does not always work perfectly. So what is money really? It is not gold. It is not paper. It is not even numbers on a screen. Money is trust, a shared belief that something accepted today will also be accepted tomorrow. That belief allows strangers to cooperate, workers to save, businesses to invest, governments to function. Without trust, money stops working. And when money stops working, economies can unravel quickly. This is why financial crises are often crises of confidence. Banks fail when people believe they might fail. Currencies collapse when people stop trusting them. Markets crash when investors lose faith in the future. Money may appear mechanical, but underneath it is deeply human, driven by psychology, expectations, and collective belief. In the end, money is not a natural resource. It is a social technology, one of the most powerful tools ever invented. It allows billions of people to coordinate their actions without ever meeting. It turns effort into value, value into savings, savings into investment, and investment into progress. But like all powerful tools, it must be managed carefully. Because when the belief that supports money weakens, the consequences can ripple through entire societies. Money is not just an economic instrument, it is a mirror, reflecting the trust, stability, and cooperation of the civilization that uses it. When that trust is strong, economies flourish. When it breaks, the illusion disappears. And what once looked like wealth can vanish faster than anyone expects. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I will show you where to look.